committee. This bill is identical to the bill that we passed out of the House last year. It just requires that the Secretary of State request documents from our presidential and vice presidential candidates that would prove their identification and qualifications for the offices that they're running for. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Representative. And this will not affect any current candidates?
No.
That we have currently, so this would not go into effect until the 2016
Correct.
election. So you're not affecting any current candidates with
No.
this. All right, thank you. Any questions of the witness or of the sponsor? Representative Newman.
Yes, to inquire, Mr. Chair.
Proceed.
Good morning, Representative. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great.
I want to thank you for bringing this bill to our attention. I think we were sort of unaware that there was some importance to it. Can you explain a little bit further about the purpose of your legislation? Why do you think it's needed?
Well, you know, we're here in the Show Me State, and I'm sure you're aware that there has been some controversial times out here in our nation over the past year. And for us in the state of Missouri, we just want to be shown what they claim to be, and we do that with every candidate in the state of Missouri, U.S. senators, U.S. representatives, state senators, state representatives, all the way down. They have to show their identity and verify that they meet the qualifications for whatever office that they're running for. That's just not done with presidential and vice presidential candidates in the state of Missouri. And it's my intent that we need to do that to protect our voters when they go to the polls, that they are voting for who they say they're voting for.
Are you aware of what the procedure is now in terms of verifying those qualifications?
It is only done by the national committees. I have found no reference to any federal agency that's checking on that. It is just left up to the national party affiliations to do that. No one requests that information, nor are they required to submit that information to anyone.
So you think there's a question in terms of, because they're actually, presidential candidates are actually nominated through the parties. I mean, that's how they're on the ballot as the nominated candidate. So you're suggesting that both the RNC, DNC are not verifying correctly those candidates' qualifications per their United States Constitution?
What I'm saying is that they need to do a more diligent job, and if they're requiring that information, it'll be a simple task of just reproducing their documents and submitting those to the states for verification.
Have you asked the RNC or DNC in terms of those documents?
No, ma'am, I've not.
So we don't know right now if that's, if there's any question in terms of that procedures. We don't have any idea if those procedures are not done correctly?
Well, I would think that in light of the controversy, they would have been the first to have come forward with those documents in the past, and they haven't.
So there might be, there's problems with those organizations?
Could be.
That they're not actually. Okay, there's a question mark, is what you're saying in terms of if those procedures are done correctly.
If we pass this bill and it's signed, then there won't be that question mark.
In terms of for the state of Missouri, correct? Even though we don't handle these presidential nominations.
Correct.
So basically you're just looking for the evidence?
For the evidence.
Okay. Is there any question in your mind that we've had need proof of the evidence?
Well, anytime that there's a controversy out there, if we don't have the evidence in front of us that we can look at, yes, there is a question in my mind. is that person who they claim to be?
Okay, and we've had that question in the past
Yes, ma'am.
with our presidential candidates?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, who they say to be. Can you also verify, are you working with any other organization that's involved in this?
No, ma'am. It was a constituent in my district that come forward to me last year, and I followed up, and that's the information that I've given you is what I found. That there's no one out there doing this except the national committees, or they claim to be doing it. There was not proof of any ID, any documentation for what they're claiming, and I felt like that for the state of Missouri and the voters in my district, this is something that needed to be done. The Secretary of State's office did offer up a letter claiming the same, that they didn't have to require proof of their ID and
Through the Secretary of State's office. I mean,
Correct.
not saying that as a candidate they don't have to
Right.
require that, but in terms of what the state does not
requires of them.
just gets the signed documentation from both the national parties that the candidate has, or the nominated candidate has meet the requirements, correct?
Right, correct.
The requirements you're talking about is what, citizenship? Is that the requirement you're talking about?
Natural born citizen of the United States, their
Okay.
age, and how long they've lived in the United States, I believe.
And so you're just questioning those documents coming through those national parties are not, saying they could not be correct?
Correct. Trust but verify.
Okay. Have you talked with the national parties in terms of, how they need, what they need to do?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions, Representative Cox?
I don't know how old you are, but I remember, I think it was in 1980, there was controversy of a candidate that was running for president of the United States, former governor of Michigan, George Romney. And the issue there was, it was well known that George Romney was born in the nation of Mexico. His parents had immigrated there, and subsequently they immigrated back. And I think that the political parties back then didn't do a very good job, because that really was something that state governments didn't really look into. And now his candidacy ended, fairly soon, but I certainly think that this is the kind of thing that potentially could reoccur. Certainly with our the modern world and the ease of travel and so forth and so on. And I appreciate your efforts here.
Thank you.
All right. Representative Fowler.
To inquire.
Proceed.
I just had a question on the write-in candidates that you talked about here. Is there a timeline on when you have to notify somebody that you want to be a write-in candidate on a presidential election, and how would that work? Because some states have caucuses, and I didn't know how you would do that. I just didn't understand that part of it, and if there's a timeline related.
Representative, I'm not sure on that. I'd have to check and get back with you on that one.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Any further questions of the sponsor, Representative Sierra Boyd? Proceed.
Thank you. Just curious, how many states are considering this, and how many have done it?
I haven't seen this year, but last year there were 10 other states that had similar legislation for adoption, and I don't know whether, I've not seen the results of any of those.
All right, thank you.